Well, we are in the midst of a mental health crisis, and that is news to nobody, because nearly everyone has been touched by it. But it raises the question, what if mental wellbeing can be taught? Today is World Mental Health Day, and our next guests were part of a fascinating experiment to determine just that. Positive psychotherapist McLeod stars in the new documentary How to Thrive, a personal guide to happiness. And she joins us now, along with Rodger, one of the subjects of the film. It's nice to see you, ladies. Thanks for being with us on the couch.
Great to see you guys.
So this film, it follows 7 Australians who are all struggling through various traumas. Why do you focus on thriving more so than happiness?
Well, happiness is really just an emotion that rises and falls, and it's a bit like chasing a high. You know, we get lifted and then we get lowered. So really what we want is to have a more active state of thriving where we're feeling good and functioning well despite life's ups and downs.
Marie, you teach the pillars of thriving Beacon. Can you explain that?
So Beacon is the evidence-based framework for thriving that I developed, and the metaphor is shining our brightest through ourselves and for others. And the B of Beacon stands for belonging. We know that we need to have close connections with others and a thrive tribe around us to be feeling good. Engagement is about being meaningfully engaged in life, knowing our strengths and getting to do things that help us to feel good. Accountability, well, we know that wellbeing is not a spectator sport, and we need to hold ourselves accountable for habits that help us thrive. And compassion is about having compassion for ourselves in balance with compassion and kindness for others. Optimism is about having an experience of positive emotions and knowing and having tools that equip us to resiliently rise through adversity. And nurture is about the physical health aspects that help us to be mentally well, so eating, moving, sleeping and being mindful. And the good thing is that we have a free app that's going to be available to all Australians that allow them to measure their Beacon score, and they can get that at howtothrivefilm.com.
It's great to have some framework because, you know, trauma can affect people in grief, as you all know, and there are no rules. It doesn't discriminate.
It doesn't.
So it's good to have your own little framework to live by.
Yeah, and certainly we're talking about mental health more and more these days, and now I feel like we need some tools in order to improve it. Mel, you were in a pretty bad way when the Thrive program asked you to be part of the film. Can you explain what was going on in your life?
I was struggling with a lot of grief after my 2 older children left my care. And I found some very unhealthy ways to cope. I was excessively cleaning, exercising. I had a new baby. I wasn't sleeping very well. I was really struggling with depression and anxiety and struggling to find joy in my life.
You were cleaning up to 5 hours a day, weren't you, to keep some of those negative thoughts away?
Yeah, it was unbelievable. And I ended up with an eating disorder through that. And it was just a really unhealthy way to cope, and I didn't have the tools that I needed to help me through this very difficult time.
Wow. And Marie, you teach people and the participants to challenge their negative thoughts, because we all have them. We have them every day. Sometimes people have them all day.
All day. I call mine Shame FM.
Oh, I love it.
Yes,
It's like a radio station,
it's constantly on Shame FM.
Can I call mine that as well?
Yeah.
You're a Kiss FM, aren't you?
And it's about what we tune into, right? About radio station in our mind. And, you know, what we know is that we're all wired with that negativity bias. And it comes from back when we were cavemen and women and we needed that to survive. We needed to pay attention to the issues, risks and problems. But that really doesn't serve us in terms of thriving and living well in today's society. So we want to focus more on what is strong rather than what is wrong with us. And so the way that I taught that with the participants was an activity called What Went Well and Why. Very well researched and actually been shown to be as effective as antidepressants even 6 months after people have done the activity.
Wow.
And all it really requires is that for 7 to 10 days, you write down at the end of the day 3 things that went well in your day and why they went well. And it rewires your brain to begin to focus on what's strong rather than what's wrong, all those sort of sparkle moments that we often just sort of move past. So, yeah, and that was really effective for Mel in terms of flipping her focus, wasn't it, Mel?
Yeah, definitely.
This can be one of your things you write down that went well, hopefully.
Yes, absolutely, being here with you.
So what were the strengths that you identified?
Look, there were so many things that I was learning through the whole process, and one of the biggest strengths that I find that I have now is gratitude. You know,
Beautiful.
you can always find something to be grateful for. So rather than focusing on the negative in my life, I turn it around and find good things that happen in my day, whether it's the smallest thing, you know, the smell of coffee first thing in the morning. There's always something. And it's really important, and it's changed my whole life.
Yeah, still on, Marie, you asked Mel to set boundaries, especially with her 2 older children. She said that she struggled with that. Why was that so important?
What we find, Bo, is that oftentimes when people are struggling and, you know, maybe even before they realise they're struggling, people are just giving and giving and giving to others in a way that depletes them and eventually leads to burnout. And what we need to kind of get is some balance around that. We need to be able to be kind, but in a considered way that also has some self-protective boundaries. And that's, you know, what was, you know, needed for Mel, and also for many people that I see, in fact. We need to kind of balance our self-compassion with our giving to others in a sort of selfless way. It has to become more kind of considered.
I found that myself, and it's funny you say that because a doctor once said to me, I'll be there for a friend and they will unpack so much stuff and take it out of their backpack as such, but I'd be then carrying it in my backpack. And I felt like I'd kept it all, just my personal experience, I was hanging on to a lot of it, and that's worked for me personally as well.
Yeah, great. Yeah, absolutely. It seems to be a really big thing that we need to learn to show compassion to ourselves. And, you know, like we were saying earlier, it's about compassion, not empathy. It's about the fact that, you know, you can see the struggle of others, but you don't need to become that struggle. In order
It's not yours to carry.
It's not yours to carry.
Well, the film How to Thrive will be screening in cinemas right throughout October. You can head to howtothrivefilm.com for all the details. And there's a free wellbeing app, which is also available on that link. Marie and Mel, thank you so much for coming in today and chatting with us. Really appreciate it.
Wonderful job,
Really
guys.
good tools as well.